Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of my podcast, Book and Story World with author Priya Grewal. So, for Season 2, Episode 2, I thought I would read out a few chapters from my first ever novel called The Creator by myself, Priya Grewal. So, The Creator is special to me because it was my first ever attempt at story writing. So, it began in 2022 around February, March time. I decided to try story writing just in my notebook, just as a hobby. And then when it seemed like it was turning into something, then I typed it up on my laptop and I tried and sent it out to publishers. So during my research, I came across Amazon KDP originally, Amazon Kindle Direct Publisher, which gives you the opportunity to self-publish with themselves. So that's what I did originally. And then I got a hybrid contract with publisher Austen Macaulay, and they published it August 2023 under the sci-fi genre. And after that, then I continued to self-publish with Amazon KDP, mainly writing stories of the horror and fantasy genre. So I am delighted today to read a few books from my first ever book, my first ever attempt at story writing since primary school probably, and it's called The Creator. So let's dig in. So in the front of the book, of my paperback copy, I've written that Austen Macaulay has included my dedication. I would like to dedicate this book to my family, whom I wish to thank for supporting me every step of the way with writing. So thank you, family, again for supporting me all the way with writing. So let's dig in. My first ever book called The Creator. Chapter 1. Millions and millions of years ago, before anything existed, there was an explosion. In the nothingness, particles began forming and combining and grew more and more powerful until all of a sudden, there was a great explosion. From the explosion came the first life. An entity was born. The entity could think. The entity took the form of a cloud and began wondering. Who am I? The entity asked itself. The entity could see nothing else in the vast emptiness of nothingness. Am I the only being in existence? The entity pondered. Nothing but me? The entity, a coloured cloud thinking to itself, continued to float around the nothingness and could not believe it was the only thing in existence. I know, the entity said to itself. I will make myself a physical form and will call it a body and carve myself what I will call a face. The entity began envisioning a body. It began forming what it would later call an arm, a leg, a hand, a foot, a torso, a neck, and produced a second hand, arm, leg, and foot. Next, the entity began envisioning a face. It thought up what it would later call eyes, a nose, and mouth, a tongue, a chin, a forehead, and short black hair. The entity made up the colour black for its hair, green for its eyes, formed a straight nose and a chiseled muscular body. It invented the colour light brown for what it called its skin. Once the entity had fully envisioned its form, body, and head, it started to take the form of what it had envisioned. The cloud-like form began transforming. When it was fully transformed, it looked at its hands and feet and arms and legs. If only I could see myself, thought the entity. The entity produced an object to see itself in what the entity would later call its mind and conjured up what the entity would call a mirror to look at its full form. The entity admired its own form as an extremely handsome being looked back at itself. Pleased with its appearance, the entity decided to cover itself. It thought up what it would later call a shirt, trousers, and shoes and magicked them on itself. It looked in the mirror satisfied with what it would later call clothing. The entity decided to call itself a name, a good name. Draconian, the entity mouthed his first word and sound. It decided this would be its name. The entity continued to stare in the mirror and thought about what it had done so far. There was nothing else there, no other beings, nothing but itself. The entity thought of itself being the first and only being in existence and decided on the word God to call itself and thought of the word male for itself. A male god, a man god. So began the life and existence of Draconian. Next, Draconian began thinking of a shelter for himself as he stood in the nothingness with the mirror. He began envisioning a shelter for himself. He began designing something grand in his mind and began inventing in his mind. He thought of long halls and objects and things to sit on and lounge in. When Draconian was done inventing his home in his head, he stretched out his hands and began to produce the grand shelter he had designed for himself, and watched what he would call colours leave his hands. When Draconian was finished, he stood proud and looked at his creation. I will call it a palace, he thought to himself. I will call it my home. Next, Draconian began designing an incredible land to surround his palace. He designed what he would later call flowers, trees, gardens, forests, waterfalls, lakes, and fountains. He designed what he would call an ocean and a sandy beach to accompany it. Once Draconian was done designing, he stretched out his hands again and conjured his vision. Once the colours were finished swirling and forming into his vision, Draconian stopped and stared at the beautiful, captivating lands he had made for himself. Draconian took to the air to examine the whole thing. As he flew through the air, he began thinking of something for overhead, and stretched out his hands again and transformed the nothingness overhead into what he called a beautiful sky, full of what he would call enchanting stars and shooting stars. He thought of there being two skies, one which was bright that he would call the day, and he would make the sky darken into what he would call night. Time for the shooting stars, Draconian thought to himself. Draconian admired his beautiful forests, lakes, flowers, trees, sand, ocean, and sky, and eventually flew back to his palace entrance. Draconian looked at his hands and wondered what to call the colours that came from his hands. He decided to call it magic, and mouthed his second word out loud. Feeling happy with his lands and sky, he opened what he would call the door to the palace and settled himself into his new home. Chapter 2. Draconian had settled happily into his palace. He had continued to invent things for his palace and named everything inside and outside the palace. He had designed and conjured indoor and outdoor baths and what he named jacuzzis in his palace and a swimming pool, and had invented an activity called swimming. He enjoyed lounging in his grand garden with a hammock and designed sofas, a bed, chandeliers, and eventually began to grow bored after he had named everything. Draconian began to feel lonely in his solo one-man god existence. Then Draconian had a sudden thought. Why don't I build myself a world, he thought to himself. Why don't I build myself a world and make beings who look like me and make them palaces and rule over it? I will call myself king, he thought to himself. Before I begin creating and designing my population, I will design things for my population to do. I will entertain my population so they will have a great existence, and I will enjoy company and my own inventions too. Draconian began designing. He invented what he called food, the most amazing tastes, and what he called drinks for exquisite pleasure. He created a language which he called English, simply by making words out of sounds and naming everything. He created letters and numbers. He invented sports for his population to have fun playing. He invented video games. He began to think of stories and entertaining his population and created what he called films or movies and cartoons. He invented what he called widescreen massive televisions to be in everyone's palaces, what he would put his films on and entertain the population with. He created the cinema for new releases. He made what he called TV shows. He created the theatre, restaurants. He created beautiful sounds and called it music and made up words with the music and called it a song. He designed and conjured magnificent clubs to play the music in. He invented the radio to listen to songs. He put his stories into word form and created books. He invented moving to the songs and called it dancing. Draconian designed and conjured beautiful parks and hangouts, entertainment complexes. When Draconian thought about the population, he decided to create a new gender. He wouldn't just design males like himself, he would design what he later named a female. He designed a female or woman with what he called breasts, a softer body, and longer hair. He made up clothing for both genders, trousers, skirts, jeans, and dresses for women. He designed every being he was going to make a palace to be their home. He planned on making zillions and zillions of males and females. He designed massage parlours, bubble baths, nails, spas, and salons for men and women. He made up what he called malls and shops for the population to pick out new clothing and items for themselves and homes, which would magically refill. He made up arcades and theme parks with exhilarating rides. He made beaches and oceans, makeup for women. He decided which magical powers to give to his population. He decided on flying, teleporting, speed, flitting, conjuring, and super strength, so they could all enjoy the sports he had invented to go with having superpowers. He invented the concept of a party and dinners and banquets. He designed boat parties. He invented chocolate, sweets, and many types of meals. He made up breakfast, lunch, dinner, and junk food. He invented a calendar, months, days, and years. He invented a clock and time so people could arrange get-togethers and call this the date, and he too could arrange his own balls, parties, and events in his own palace. When Draconian finished designing and creating his world and all the activities for his population's pleasure and entertainment, he looked ecstatically at the greatest world he could have ever created. He called it his universe. He labelled the different areas, countries, cities, and planets, and gave each planet a name. He created a glorious sky and hangouts in what he called space, where one could see the whole glorious universe. He conjured the palaces for each member of his universe. He had finished designing and creating his incredible universe. Chapter 3. With his universe complete, all palaces and attractions in place, Draconian made his first being. "Hello," said Draconian to his first ever creation. He had made a male first, complete with the language he had invented and a range of magical powers. He had made him incredibly handsome with the same skin tone and hair colour as himself, with a chiselled face and nose and muscular body. "Welcome to my universe, my world, Alaskia," he had named it. "I am your maker, your creator and creator of the universe you will shortly see. Your name is Dreyfus. Come, let me show you your body and face I have sculpted." As Dreyfus got up from the table Draconian had made him upon, he stared amazed at his hands. Draconian led him to the mirror. "Please, take a look at yourself. I am the first and only being in existence," Draconian explained to him. "I was born from an explosion of elements and sculpted my own face and body and created and made this form when I was a cloud to begin with." Draconian switched to his original form to show him and then back to his body. "I made myself what I call a home and some lands. Also, I forgot to tell you the name I made for myself. My name is Draconian, the creator of yourself, Dreyfus, and the universe. I was lonely by myself and so decided to make a world full of beings. You are my first creation, and I will make a world with millions and millions of beings. I have equipped you with what I call magical powers to enjoy and have created a world of magical delights for all to enjoy. Now, let me show you your palace. Ah, I have named your species the beings I am making Alaskians. The planet which will be your home, Sonoralia, your city, Roncaria, and your town, which will soon be full of neighbours for you to talk to and become friends with, is called Mon Maria. I have equipped you so you can use your powers straight away. I'll briefly show you what you can do when I've showed you your palace. I have made you fully ready to communicate. The language I have made is called English. Come, let me show you the universe before showing you your palace." "Well, thank you, Draconian, for making me. I am honoured to be made first and feel excited to live in and experience the universe you have made," Dreyfus stated his first ever words. "I call myself King Draconian," Draconian said. "This is my empire, my universe. I have made the word king for my title as ruler and creator. King and emperor of all beings and my universe, where I wish my creation to have the most wonderful and fantastic of times," King Draconian said, as he led Dreyfus to his gardens. "I call myself a god, the only one with no creator," Draconian stated. Draconian stopped once they had reached his gardens. Dreyfus looked around in amazement at the astonishing garden and sights. "Now, I want you to think the word fly in your head, one of your powers. I will show you my universe," Draconian informed him. Dreyfus did as advised and felt a thrill of excitement as he began to rise higher and higher into the air, and Draconian levelled to meet him. "Come, let's fly," Draconian laughed. King Draconian and Dreyfus sailed through the air. Dreyfus felt a rush of exhilaration as he looked at the beautiful, incredible-looking lands with exciting attractions and could not believe this was going to be his home. His breath caught in his throat when King Draconian, his creator, showed him what he called space, a view of the entire universe, all the planets, and there were even things to do there in the beautiful cosmos. It's incredible, King Draconian, Dreyfus said. I thank you for making me. King Draconian laughed. Next, we will teleport outside the home I have made for you. I call them palaces. Just think my palace in your head and we will be right outside it, said King Draconian. Dreyfus did as advised and next popped up outside the magnificent building and felt ecstatic about having a palace as King Draconian had made for himself as his home. Draconian popped up beside him a split second later. Let me show you around and settle you in. But first I will show you everything you can do, King Draconian said. Draconian demonstrated flitting, speed, super strength, and conjuring, and Dreyfus copied, feeling ecstatic. Right, let's enter your palace, your home, King Draconian said. Dreyfus followed and amazed as his creator showed him the grandest, most exciting home that could exist. As well as the grand architecture, there were baths, spas, and jacuzzis for relaxing. Draconian showed him the television for entertainment and music on the radio. He was in awe when he showed him his wardrobe full of clothing and shoes to wear, and noted the trousers and shirt he was wearing now. Draconian showed Dreyfus a stunning garden with a swimming pool. Draconian showed him games rooms, an indoor cinema and sports rooms, all sorts of fun things to do, video games and many other rooms for activities. When it came to showing him food and drink, he nearly squealed in excitement at how good it tasted and could not wait to begin his existence. Draconian also showed him a library full of what he called books, stories he had written, and showed him how to switch on the TV. Okay, Draconian said, welcome again to my world. I will leave you to settle in and begin enjoying your existence. I'm going to start making the rest now and introduce them to the universe and their world. You will have company soon. When you have settled into the palace, please feel free to go out and start enjoying yourself at my attractions and take your neighbours with you when they arrive. They'll all be named by myself too. I'll visit after you've had the opportunity to settle in. Goodbye for now, King Draconian said and began to fly away. Let me know if you have any questions. You can contact me telepathically. Just think, communicate with Draconian. Dreyfus heard the last words in his head as his creator flew away. Dreyfus turned back around to stare at the palace his creator had made for him. Wow, he uttered in sheer amazement. Chapter 4. Draconian continued to make millions and millions of beings, or Alaskians as he called them, female after male, and continued in that order. Each one he named and showed his universe to, and showed them how to use their powers and settled them into their palaces. Once the Alaskians had settled in and started befriending one another in their towns and their planets, they went outside to try out the attractions and amusements. Their experience of Draconian's inventions was beyond words. The Alaskians found, and cries of joy could be heard from theme parks, and happy, excited voices could be heard everywhere. The hangouts were full of Alaskians, and people could be seen flying happily in space too. When Draconian was done making and settling zillions and zillions of beings, both male and female, into their palaces, he floated invisibly over his universe and took a look at the whole thing. Immensely happy with the zillions he had made and his wonderful empire, and pleased with seeing everyone enjoy themselves at the palaces he had made them and at his amusements and attractions. Draconian smiled to himself, ecstatic and proud of his grand empire. The planets, the countries, the cities, the towns, all invented by himself. He travelled back to his own palace and sat on the throne he had fashioned himself, the most powerful being in existence, Emperor Draconian. Millions and millions of years went by. Emperor Draconian was immensely popular, and the people of the universe loved him. They loved his inventions. His empire was a massive industry run by himself, where he entertained the masses with ongoing music releases, movies, books, and plays at his theatres. He delighted the world with his new inventions and attractions for millions of years. His parties were legendary. He was friends with everyone, and the universe he had created was actually non-stop fun for eternity. Draconian was described as kind, benevolent, a genius, and had the most handsome of faces. His popularity was immense. His genius adored, admired, and celebrated. Draconian himself loved his empire and loved inventing, writing books, and inventing everything else he'd made. Meanwhile, in the quiet rooms in the halls of some of the residents across the universe, jealous utterings had been made across the millennias. Small groups of the jealous had formed in the towns and the cities across the universe. They moaned about Draconian despite his friendship and kindness and magnificent homes he had bestowed upon them all. "I hate him," remarked Lucian to his friend Celine and two males named Faraz and Rosio. They had been Lucian's secret We Hate Emperor Draconian group since the first month of existence, and laughed thinking about their equivalents across the universe. Their jealousy was no joke. It consumed them all by now. He hated faking it in front of Draconian when he invited them around for dinner and lounging. Lucian despised sitting with his creator, wishing for every second he was him, along with his friends. He wished he had the power, the face, the adoration, and the popularity. He wished he was called a genius and celebrated the way the universe celebrated Draconian and his inventions. Even as they pleasured in the food, the drink, and delights of the world, they despised Draconian. Sometimes they laughed at one another, enjoying his inventions and their envy of him. It had started in the first week for Lucian, when Draconian had shown him around his palace and departed. Lucian had gone to look at himself in the mirror again. "Wow," he said to himself as he admired his form in the mirror. He took off his clothes so he could look at himself fully and turned around and admired his physique. He turned around again and looked at his chiseled face, startling blue eyes, and light brown skin. He admired his chest and torso and muscular arms. He was overcome with his own beauty and body and could not believe how handsomely he had been made. "What a face," he said to himself, "and what a body." After that he had said hello to his neighbours and began enjoying the world and attractions, the super arcades and theme park rides, and his own gardens and swimming pools, supremely proud of his appearance all the while. He wished he could take a mirror with him everywhere just so he could look at himself again. Then came Draconian's visit to the town. He gathered all in Lucian's town at one of the halls to officially welcome them all, now he had finished making all the beings for his universe. Lucian attended, supremely happy, still admiring his own form when he noticed something. As he watched his creator, he glanced around as Draconian stood in the centre, the audience seated circularly around him. Lucian noticed that Draconian had the greatest face of all. Lucian looked at the males and females. The females were incredibly beautiful, and the men were all handsome with muscular, chiseled bodies. Draconian, however, had the most beautiful face of all, the greatest out of all men and women. Lucian looked upon Draconian with envy, and thought it had better not be better than his own face. After the welcome and smiling and saying hello to Draconian, Lucian had teleported back to his palace. He stared in the mirror and magically conjured Draconian's face into the mirror, and glanced at his own reflection next to it. He wanted to smash the mirror into pieces in fury. Draconian's face was better than his own. "That's not fair," Lucian had remarked. "He made his face first, and it's the best of all. I want his face." He stared disgruntled into the mirror, as there was nothing he could do about it, and the storm of jealousy grew and grew inside of him, as he watched Draconian at the centre of the stage, and as Draconian became a good personal friend to all, including himself. Friendly and humble and powerful. Lucian fake smiled and paid lip service to Draconian as his jealousy grew and grew, hating Draconian's face, and began to envy and loathe everything else too. The centre stage, the admiration for Draconian's creations, the songs, the books, the films, the plays, the fun sports and activities, the architecture. Lucian wished he could gag every time his friends mentioned Draconian. He only approached the three like-minded people, as he called them, Celine, Rosio, and Faraz, who had lived in the same town, their palaces not far from his, because he had seen them not looking enthusiastic and not respond when a number of them went to dinner and the others were praising Draconian. So Lucian had approached them and commented on not looking enthusiastic like the others, and got the sounds and groans he wanted to hear, and made them into a secret gang. The rest he was a fake friend too, and wished he could throw something at them every time they mentioned their creator. The gang all enjoyed themselves and the world all the while. They just envied and loathed Draconian and the admiration, and wished his face was theirs. Celine wished hers was more beautiful than his. So they moaned and enjoyed the universe like everyone else for millions of years, eye-rolling and gagging, wishing they were Draconian. Lucian wanted to be Draconian so badly he said hello to as many he could visit Draconian so badly he said hello to as many he could visit in the city he lived in, and visited every planet to try and make friends, just because everyone knew Draconian's name because he made them all and was a friend to all. Lucian wanted that many people to know his name and for them all to admire him. He wanted to be draconian. He wanted his face, his throne, his power, the admiration, the popularity. Lucian settled back into his chair after reflecting on how it had all begun. "We better go and attend the opening ceremony for the creator's new attraction," Lucian grumbled. The other three looked moodily back at him. "His Majesty will be expecting us," Lucian remarked sarcastically, and the four teleported out. Chapter 5. Lucian, Faraz and Celine and some others from their town had been invited to dine with their creator at his palace. They laughed and joked and had a grand banquet. After, they went outside to play golf in Draconian's private magical sports stadium. "Good game," Draconian said to Lucian, tapping him on the back. "How have you been?" Draconian asked Lucian. "Good, thank you," Lucian replied, jealousy bubbling to the surface as he looked at Draconian, envious to the core of his startling green eyes. "I really liked your new music releases. I've been lounging in my pool listening to them," Lucian said. "Oh, thank you," said Draconian. "I thought I'd try out a different kind of sound." "Have you tried out the new restaurant in town?" Draconian asked. "Yes," Lucian said falsely. "I had a wonderful time. When you think you couldn't invent anything better, it gets even better. Even by your own standards," Lucian remarked. Draconian laughed and said, "Come everyone, back to my palace for drinks." Lucian followed and caught the eye of Celine briefly. She was caught in a false conversation with one of their friends from the same town, Anrita. Lucian glanced back at the back of Draconian's head, wishing he could make him disappear forever. Chapter 6. Later on that night at 11 p.m, Lucian sat on a sofa in his library. He sat in silence, lost in thoughts. "I wish I could make him really disappear," Lucian thought to himself and stared at his hand. "What if there were a way? Could I conjure magic that would eradicate the entire universe from existence as well as Draconian? Get rid of his fan base too, which would need doing anyway to get away with erasing Draconian from existence, but I'd love to erase them all. Uncreate all of them. Destroy the love for Draconian and the popularity. The whole universe eradicated," Lucian mused to himself. "First of all, I'll see how many are jealous of Draconian throughout the entire universe and see if a plan can be made," Lucian thought to himself. "Show me those who despise Draconian across his universe," Lucian said, hand outstretched, and an image formed in front of him, showing how many there were. In the population of zillions and zillions, there were many. "What figure is that?" asked Lucian. 1/3 of the entire population, the words appeared before him. So, Lucian thought to himself, 2/3 of the population love the creator, and 1/3 envy and loathe him. It's enough, he stated. How can I eradicate the 2/3 along with Draconian from existence, Lucian thought. What if I could conjure a magical energy so hot it could eradicate our very form? Melt them into nothing, Lucian muttered to himself. Lucian conjured a chair in front of himself and started conjuring an orange energy ball in his hand. Make it as hot as it can get. Conjure to eradicate, Lucian commanded. Lucian threw the orange energy ball at the chair and it was reduced to cinders. A black mark was all that was left on the floor where the chair had been. A black stain on his floor. Yes, Lucian said out loud. I will use it on Draconian and the entire universe, he thought. Wait, he said to himself. Will this work on Draconian and the entire universe, Lucian asked himself. Show me what happens if I throw it at Draconian, he commanded his magic. An image swelled in front of him. The orange energy ball flew towards Draconian. He briefly glowed orange and nothing else happened. Curse them all, Lucian muttered furiously. Show me what happens if I use it on everyone in the universe, Lucian commanded. A new image swelled in front of him. The image showed him the entire universe being reduced to nothing in his orange magic, aflame with it and screaming. Yes, Lucian said victoriously. Now, what to do with Draconian, Lucian thought for a few moments. What about a prison dimension, he thought. Can I transport him to a prison dimension where it is impossible for him to use his powers? Show me, he commanded. This time the image showed Lucian throwing another energy ball, which hit Draconian and transported him into a prison dimension, and he cried out in fury as he could not use his powers in the prison dimension after the initial confusion about where he was. Got you, said Lucian silkily to himself. I think I'll make it the most hellish dimension I can, Your Imperial Majesty, Lucian added as he looked with loathing at Draconian's eyes. For all of eternity. Destruction for Draconian's universe and my friends who love him, Lucian stated, and a hell prison dimension for Draconian. Forever, Lucian shrieked victoriously. Now all I have to do is recruit Celine, Faraz, and Rosio, and persuade them into doing it, and persuade them to help me persuade 1/3 of the population into killing everyone in the universe, while the 4 of us transport Draconian into his torture prison. We can multiply so we can destroy all in the universe and send our duplicates to everyone in the universe, whilst myself, Faraz, Celine, and Rosio transport Draconian into his prison dimension. We can turn invisible and float so there is nothing for us to fear. No sound, and the rest can do the same. I will make a replica hideaway in case we fail with the security alarm, so if there are any magical breach attempts on it, the alarm will sound and we will teleport into the next hideaway. If there's an attempt on the next one, the alarm sounds again and we'll be gone again into the next one. Draconian will never be able to capture us. I just need to replicate this universe as our hideaway. Same homes, Lucian laughed. Who will say no if they're as jealous as I am, Lucian stated. What can go wrong if we're invisible and floating? No sound, Lucian remarked. I'll be idolized, Lucian said. A hero to all who envy and despise Draconian. I'll get the glory, I'll be the king, the emperor of destruction of Draconian's hell prison, the keymaster. 1/3 of the universe will bow before me. Not only will I get rid of Draconian and destroy all in his universe who love him, I'll have the glory, the admiration. Everyone will bow before me. I will rule the universe. I'll be the emperor of chaos and destruction, master of the universe. The universe will be mine. I don't need a title. I don't need a crown. I'll have the glory, the worship. I'll be the new Draconian. What's not to love? Draconian imprisoned in hell, his fans gone. The universe will be ours. It will be mine. Time for the jealous to reign, Lucian said to himself. It's a great plan, Lucian said to himself. Right. Time to get started, he said. I'll visit Celine first. Lucian teleported out of the room. Chapter 7. An entire world universe takeover, Celine asked, curious and perplexed as Lucian sat in her palace living room with Faraz and Rosio. Yes, said Lucian. What can go wrong if we're floating, no sound, and invisible? Then we'll be the monarchs, the emperor, the kings, all of us. Us 4 will be celebrated forever for planning and organizing it if you help me persuade 1/3 of the universe's population. They just need to duplicate. The duplicates will mimic the action of the 3rd, throwing my destruction magic at every member of the population, all located by the duplicates, and everyone on every planet will be destroyed in the same moments. Everyone can be assigned to their own planet. The Draconian despisers are all across the universe. Few lone ones with no one to express their hatred to, Lucian said. Imagine it, Lucian said. Us 4, the replacement of Draconian. The admiration, the glory. 1/3 of the population knowing our names, worshipping us, celebrating us forever. No titles, no emperor, no king, no creator. Of course we will still enjoy the palaces and the inventions of his forever. Thanks, Draconian, Lucian laughed. The rest of them obliterated, gone forever, and Draconian tortured in a prison hell dimension forever, power-bound as my destruction magic doesn't work on him. We simply need to transport him there magically, Lucian stated. I like it, Faraz said. I like it a lot, Rosio said. And you, Lucian asked Celine, do you love it? I do, said Celine. I'm just a little nervous about transporting Draconian, she murmured. What's to be nervous about? We'll be invisible. We could teleport in now invisibly and transport him into it. We just need to recruit the 1/3 so they destroy the universe population, so we can get away with it. Lucian's designed an impenetrable hideaway with an alarm where we teleport out as soon as there is any breach attempt on it, and we'll be gone in a split second. The hideaway is a replica of here, same homes. We can never be caught, and the hideaway is just in case we fail. With invisibility, floating is a sure thing. Practically 100% chance of success. What could go wrong? One energy ball of destruction from the rest duplicated, the entire universe wiped out, transportation and torture for Draconian, Faraz stated. We'll be celebrated forever, Draconian reduced to nothing but our powerless toy in our prison, and his fans eradicated. Gone forever. We'll be worshipped, no one over us, and we'll convince the 1/3 with calling it the free world. No Draconian, our world and universe only, said Rossio. Us four on top, Lucian added, the saviours. Okay, said Celine excitedly, I'm in. So, Lucian said, you three are going to visit the 1/3 with me. I'll let their name to a contract once they've said yes, once they're recruited and practically bow to us. How do you know they'll bow to us? Asked Celine. Such is the nature of jealousy, said Lucian. It's what I do, practically bow to anyone who had a way of destroying Draconian and his fan base. Especially when we loathe and envy his face and want his green eyes. Practically wish I could skin him and put it on myself, Lucian added. Torture for eternity will do, laughed Celine. Who to visit first? Asked Rossio, laughing. Chapter 8. Lucian, Faraz, Rossio and Celine had got half the signatures required for the massacre takeover and imprisoning and torture of Draconian. They laughed happily in their quarters as the worship began. The billions who had already signed were practically lifting them on their shoulders. Down with Draconian, many of them celebrated in their palaces in the shadow of their worlds. And his fans too, they added. So sick of them praising him all the time, some said. Some celebrated wiping out the entire universe and torturing Draconian for eternity. They said yes over their own vanity at the beginning of existence for their own forms and were consumed with the same envy of Draconian's face and had not moved on to being jealous of himself as a monarch. They envied his face and didn't like hearing praise for him due to their envy. Now their day had come, an opportunity to destroy him. Many just found destroying their own friends and the universe population a necessity, only because they had to overthrow and torture Draconian forever, the object of their envy. Sorry, guys, many said comically. Who's the king now? One shouted. Many were excited to use the destruction magic invented by Lucian on their friends and the entire universe. It turned into the secret world, unbeknown to Draconian and the friends of all who said yes, and the Four's own circle of friends and best friends. Sitting with them, laughing with them, planning on wiping every single one of them from existence. False smiles to Draconian himself, trying not to sound too overboard whilst talking to him to avoid suspicion. No behaviour different to usual, advised Lucian, so there is no suspicion. No extra sucking up, he advised. Don't go overboard and arouse any suspicion, he instructed. Lucian enjoyed the hero worship most of all. Faraz, Celine and Rossio enjoyed their share too. Celine got annoyed once with Lucian, with it being his plan and invention getting the most praise of all, but loved her own glory too much to care about her second of envy. This or nothing, she thought. If it weren't for Lucian, there would be nothing at all. We'd still be four like the rest, loathing Draconian behind closed doors and faking it with the rest. And I do love getting rid of Draconian and his universe, equal to enjoying the glory, she thought to herself. How the mighty have fallen, she thought to herself, looking at an image of Draconian's prison hell dimension of torture, as they called it. All will fall, she said out loud. All four loved the 1/3 knowing their names. It's better than I thought it'd be, said Faraz. The 4 kings, emperors of destruction, said Rossio. Torturers of Draconian, said Faraz. Lucian laughed. You never truly live until the whole universe knows your name and worships you, Lucian stated, and we're destroying the rest, he laughed. Lucian conjured up the contract with the billions of names on it so far. He had approached all with the other 3. They began their proposal quietly, slowly, not erratically, calm and controlled. He took the other 3 to make the ones they were asking more confident by seeing all 4 of them in on it. Lines bouncing back and forth with the 3 after outlining his proposal to each person helped persuade them all. The other 3 already being in on it swayed any of the uncertain or nervous despite them all wanting it. Some shouted and celebrated in excitement as soon as they signed. Some were jovial as soon as he told them his idea. Many signed with glee. Some enjoyed the idea of torturing Draconian more than wiping him from existence like the others. Even better, some said when Lucian told them his destruction magic didn't work on Draconian, so it would be torture instead. The secret world of faking it in front of the non-suspicious and celebrating in the shadows continued. Others going to visit those who had signed up across the universe, whispering. The Eradicators, some of them called themselves. The Destroyers, others named themselves. Others called themselves Masters of Destruction and praised Lucian for his conjuring and hell dimension of torture for Draconian. Genius, others said and celebrated the four visiting them all. Each assigned to destroy their own planet and duplicate to destroy every citizen. Those they did know, those they didn't. Some had been best friends with those they planned to wipe out for millions of years, and of course were friends with their creator too. The secret world continued, the shadow ever growing, until Lucian and the three had the signature of every individual in the jealous 1/3 of the population, located by Lucian, all persuaded by the four into signing his contract of destruction. Destruction and torture they had signed up for. A universe takeover via both. Recruitment was complete. Chapter 9. It was the evening before the massacre of 2/3 of the entire universe and imprisoning Draconian in a power-bound torture prison hell dimension for eternity. Lucian had visited all with Celine, Faraz and Rosio to ensure everyone knew what to do and had watched them all practice teleporting, turning invisible, duplicating, and throwing his incineration magic to reduce all to nothing. He had ensured they were duplicated so every individual in the universe had a duplicate to incinerate themselves. The plan was slick and everybody was ready to incinerate the following day at 12 p.m. midday. Himself, Celine, Faraz and Rosio were to teleport to wherever Draconian was and transport him to his torture prison for eternity. The majority of the rest assigned to incinerating their own planet. Almost time, Lucian thought to himself in his own chambers, sitting on the chair where he had first begun formulating the plan. I did it, thought Lucian. I recruited 1/3 of the universe into destroying 2/3 of the population and torturing Draconian forever. Glory is almost mine, he thought. The hour is almost upon us. Nervousness and excitement consumed him. Excited anticipation. He couldn't wait to transport Draconian into a torture dimension and eradicate his population into nothingness. Once it is done, Lucian said to himself, the name Lucian will be celebrated forever. Chapter 10. It was 12 p.m. the following afternoon. 2/3 of the population were relaxing in their palaces, lounging with their friends, eating at restaurants, or enjoying themselves in one of Draconian's attractions or amusements in the cities they had inhabited, and had the most wonderful of times in for millions of years. Whilst they relaxed and talked and enjoyed themselves, unbeknown to them, what many of their own friends, best friends for some, were planning, figures began teleporting into different palaces across the universe, large groups of them across the cosmos. Invisible, not one could see them hovering in the air around them. Moments later, screams filled the air across the universe as the entire population was aflame with Lucian's orange destruction magic. They screamed as the lethal magic was so hot they felt excruciating searing pain for the first time in their long, joyous existence. Where moments before there had been a happy population enjoying themselves, seconds later there was nothing. It only took seconds to be incinerated into nothing. The universe was silent, empty. Every town, city, country, and planet completely emptied. Population destroyed, massacred. The 1/3 stood victorious. Okay, so that's the first half of my book called The Creator. So if anyone does want to find out what happens in the second half, then it is available on Amazon in paperback or on Kindle, and it's published with Austen Macaulay. So it's on a few other book sites like W.H. Smith, Barnes & Noble, and Waterstones, and maybe some others as well. So if anyone's wondering where the inspiration came from The Creator and recognize the name Lucian, I based it on the story from Christianity about a god making angels, and 1/3 of the angels being led into killing God by the evil angel who invented killing, Lucifer. So the character Lucian is based on Lucifer organizing the end of the world. So I expanded the story I heard originally about Lucifer leading angels into trying to kill God, into killing the rest of the universe too. So that's the inspiration for my story, The Creator. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you to all the love and support I've received with the writing from everyone out there. And I hope everyone enjoys their week and enjoys my stories. Take care, everyone. Until next week. Bye-bye.